And guys, there was literally a panty liner stuck on my bed. How disgusting. Literally a panty liner. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Cassie, and today is a long-awaited story time. I know I owe you guys so many story times, and I have been wanting to for a really long time, but finally I've decided to start doing story time Sundays just because I typically post on Sundays already. I won't do every Sunday, but every few Sundays here and there, I will start incorporating story time Sundays just for a little bit of fun, just because I definitely have a lot of crazy stories to tell you guys. So today, as you can see by the title, is my roommate horror story. And when I tell you, this is going to be a crazy one. It definitely is a really long story, so I'm going to have to break it up into part 1 and part 2. So obviously today is part 1, but stay tuned for part 2 next week. This is just making me relive the whole situation over again, but it's just so crazy. So anyways, if you see me looking down, it's just because I have my laptop with a bunch of notes because I wanted to make sure I gave you guys every single detail of this horrible roommate. Anyways, okay, so a little backstory. So I lived in Chicago for 2 years, and during those 2 years, I lived in the same building. So pretty much my first year in Chicago, I dormed in that building through my school. So let me rewind, I guess. So basically, the actual apartment complex, the first 10 floors were actually owned by my school, and then the next 15 floors, so it was a 25-story building, so the next 15 floors were actually just apartments for people who wanted to lease it out through the actual apartment building. So in my first year, I actually lived in the apartment through my school, which was Columbia College, but it had so many rules and regulations so that when I came back my second year, I decided that I was just going to sign a lease with the actual building itself. So in my second year, when I signed the lease, I signed a 2-bedroom apartment lease, and it was all the way on the 23rd floor. And when I tell you guys, the elevator sucked. There was 3 elevators, and they honestly took like 30 minutes for one to come, and I was really not trying to walk 23 flights of stairs. I even got a black eye one time from these ancient elevators, but that's a story for another time. I told you guys, I have so many stories on top of stories about Chicago. It was just a crazy 2 years living there. So anyways, when I signed the lease, I had 2 bedrooms. So one was for me, and then I would have a roommate. So I let the actual apartment complex match me with someone to live with. And basically what you did was kind of took like a dating type of quiz, and you would say what you wanted and what you didn't want in a roommate, and then they would match you with someone. So about 2 weeks, so I moved in on September 1st. So around like August 17th or so, I ended up getting an email from the leasing manager who I knew personally from living there the year before. She ended up emailing my roommate assignment, like who my roommate would be, her name, her information, so like her email and her phone number, just so we could get in contact with one another. And from there, I had my roommate, and I'd be meeting her in the next 2 weeks when we moved in. So on that day, literally the day we got the roommate assignment, I ended up getting an email from my roommate. I'm not gonna mention her name in here just because if she ever did watch it, well, I don't really care if she does watch it. I highly doubt she'll ever come across this video, but I just want to leave her name out of it. But basically, the day we got a roommate assignment, she ended up emailing me because obviously she got my email address from the email, and she was just like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. I saw we're living together. Do you have Instagram? And I'm just like, no introduction, no like, hey, like, let's get to know each other. It was just like straight to the point. We're living with each other. What's your social media? And I'm like, if you're trying to know who I am, why not ask to text me, call me, FaceTime me to get to know each other instead of like, what, trying to stalk my social media to figure out who I am as a person? Like, it just it didn't make sense to me, but whatever. I ended up giving her my Instagram handle and we started following each other. So fast forward, basically within those 2 weeks before moving into our apartment, we honestly really didn't get to know one another. We knew where we were from, but we didn't really talk about who we are as people. We honestly just talked about what we needed for the apartment. So we actually lived in a fully furnished apartment, so we didn't have to worry about the furniture. It came with living room and bedroom furniture. You could have decided to bring your own bedroom furniture or living room. She decided to get her own bed, but I just slept in the bed that they provided. But I wasn't trying to spend any extra money because the rent was already high. But anyways, we honestly didn't have to worry about any other things besides the kitchen and the bathroom. And we didn't want to basically have doubles of everything. But because I already lived in Chicago the year before, I had pretty much everything for the apartment besides a few different things. So I told her, like, I have all the pots and pans, you know, the bowls, the cups, utensils, all that. All we really needed to worry about was pretty much a garbage can, and she decided to also bring a toaster, which I was able to live without, and I think like a coffee machine, which she brought, but I didn't drink coffee at all, which I ended up finding out later on she didn't even know how to make coffee and was trying to ask me, and clearly I don't know how to make coffee because I've never drank it before. Anyways, besides the point, we really didn't need much, so we pretty much just communicated what we'd be bringing on the first day. So now let's forward to actual move-in day, which was September 1st. So the first few days I was there, I moved in by myself, and then later on my sister came about like a few days or a week later just to help me settle in. But on the actual first day of moving in, it was just me, my roommate, and my roommate's mom. So we pretty much were honestly not really around each other because we were just trying to settle in. I had all of my things in storage, so I had friends to help me get my stuff from storage to bring to my apartment. And then she was actually a freshman and hasn't done any of this before, and she pretty much had to get everything for her bedroom. So we pretty much didn't see much of each other the first day throughout the day because we were just trying to honestly get settled into the apartment. So I'm not gonna lie, from the beginning that I met her, I started getting some weird energy, but I didn't want to judge her just from like me initially meeting her. So I was like, okay, let me get to know her. We'll be living with each other. So it wasn't until the end of the first day moving in, I ended up going out all day, and during that time, I guess her mom was leaving, so I never got to say bye to her mom, but her mom ended up leaving a note under my bedroom door, and it basically was just like, please take care of my daughter, here's my number. And I don't know if she was doing this out of just being like a mom and wanting the best for her child and making sure she has someone to like protect her and take care of her, or if she meant this like, I know my daughter is a lot, can you please watch over her type of thing so she doesn't get into trouble. But she was a really sweet lady. I just took her number down. I messaged her, like I sent her a text and was like, just want to let you know this is my number. I got your message. Like, I'll definitely like watch over her. Just being nice, whatever. We'll be living with each other. So end of the day, I end up finally like talking to my roommate. We both are finally now settled into our apartment, and I remember like she was sitting on the sofa and I was sitting on like the accent chair, and we were just talking, and the first thing she brings up literally is, do you smoke? And in my head I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. It's all getting started right now. So she then goes into a story and was telling me about how she got locked up like a few months ago. And basically she's from Florida, so she was telling me how she was driving from Florida all the way to Chicago for like a summer festival. I think it was like Lollapalooza, I don't know. And basically while driving through Georgia to get to Chicago, she ended up getting pulled over, and she had a bunch of weed in her car, and I guess they like arrested her. This was again years ago, so I don't even know if weed is legal. I know it's legal in California, but basically she ended up getting pulled over and getting locked up. And like my initial thoughts are like, great story to tell me on your first day meeting me. Like, you really think that I want to know you got locked up a few months ago for the amount of weed you had in your car? Literally, like, while I'm just meeting you? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, oh, great story. Like, that's so crazy, Whatever. So I'm just kind of like, I I don't have to be best friends with this girl. We're just living with each other. I just have to get along with her. Like, again, she was 2 years younger than me, and, you know, it's her first year in college, so she's excited. She's gonna wild out a little bit, but I could just already tell there is gonna be some issues. So let's move into the first week living with each other. So I will have receipts and pictures, and I'll try to incorporate like videos or as much as I can of like what my apartment looked like, or screenshots of text messages, or just crazy situations I had to deal with, just so you could fully imagine this whole story. Because this roommate, she is one interesting little girl. Anyways, so okay, so now 6 days into living with each other. So literally it's like the 6th of September. I'm still getting to know her. So at this time, it's just kind of like, if you do something, just kind of like point it out, you know? So I don't care if she smokes, you know? Like, she obviously asked me if I smoked on the first day, because clearly she smoked, and she told me all about her weed story of getting locked up. I honestly don't care if she smoked, but what I did care about was if she smoked in our apartment. So the thing about our apartment is, one, you can't smoke in them, but two, since we lived in a high rise, they honestly didn't have windows that could open, because we had floor to ceiling windows. At least in my bedroom, she had like a small window, but they didn't allow the windows to open just because of safety, you know, precautions. So we had no way to basically let out the smoke if she smoked in our room, so it smelled up. But also we all shared the same vents in the apartment. So basically, if one person smoked throughout the building, you would be able to trace to which apartment it was. And again, my apartment was really, really strict. So like, my first instinct is to tell her like, hey, like, if you're gonna smoke, at least smoke outside so we don't get in trouble. So I ended up texting her this, and again, this is on the 6th of September, so not even a week living with each other. And all I said was like, hey, is it cool if you smoke outside instead of your room? I'm not cool with the whole apartment smelling like weed 24/7, since there's no way for us to air it out since we can't open up the windows. Mind you, I said 24/7 because every single day she was smoking either by herself or had someone over smoking with her. And so, you know, she just said, yeah, OMG, you should have told me earlier. I didn't know the whole place smelled like it, and I was trying to be low-key with the window. But no, I totally don't wanna if it smells outside or anything. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't want to jeopardize our place. I think she was trying to say, like, if the smell was like in our living room and all that. So basically I end up saying, yeah, it's cool. I don't care if you got weed and all that in your room. Just smoke it outside or something, because I was able to smell it before I even walked into our place. So basically our apartment was at the end of the whole hall. So the elevator, you'd go up and then you could go 2 ways. We go to the right, and all the way down was our apartment, and I literally was able to smell all the weed from the elevators. That's how strong it was, because you couldn't open up the windows. Anyways, I didn't have an issue, but that didn't stop her. Like, she continued to smoke every single day. And you'll see later on in part 2 how this ended up being like a horrible story that got me in trouble, that got her in trouble, that got police involved. A whole lot of threats happening and all of that. So it just got even worse. But anyways, I was trying not to make a big issue. I was just trying to point it out in the first week so she wouldn't continue, but she was a little freshman. She could care less what I had to say. Anyways, now let's move on to week 2. Again, we're still meeting each other, so I'm not trying to be like, don't do this and don't do that. So basically in the second week, like I mentioned, I brought everything for the kitchen, and I honestly didn't care if I shared with her. Like, I had the pots and pans, the bowls and all that. She brought the toaster and the garbage can or whatever, but I didn't mind sharing, because like, as long as she cleaned it, as long as she like didn't destroy it or take it or whatever, I'm totally fine with sharing my stuff. So the thing is that the one thing we decided on was, even though we'd share everything in the kitchen, we'd get our own groceries. She personally didn't know how to cook, and that meant that she really wasn't going to get a lot of groceries. She was going to be eating out a lot, and I didn't have like the meal plan with the school, and we had an apartment, so the only way for me to pretty much eat was if I got groceries and cooked, or if I ate out. But I honestly didn't want to eat out all the time if I had groceries and a place to cook. So we decided to get our own groceries and not eat each other's stuff. Basically, again, she like never cooked anything. So basically there was one day, which was on the 15th, the second week of living with her, I ended up cooking some rice. And this was an early morning. I ended up cooking some rice, and I ended up coming back from class and realized that all the freshly cooked rice was thrown in the garbage. And I was just a little bit confused because, again, like, she doesn't cook whatsoever, so I was kind of like, why are you touching my rice? And the thing about it is, like, I understand it's rice, but I had a really, really complicated schedule. So basically, I went to class from 8 to 12, 1 to 5, and 6 to 10. So I only had 2 hours of my whole day to eat. So what I would do is I would cook, pre-cook food in the morning or the night before, and then have it ready to warm up before I have to go to my next class. So the fact that I freshly cooked all this rice in the morning, and by the time I came back from class, it was all in the trash. I was like, what the heck? And I know she did ask me like a few days before that if I could cook her some rice. So this is where she kind of got confused. But again, it's like the whole aspect of just communicating with me, So basically, I ended up saying like, hey, is it cool that when I have food out or cooked to not touch it, or make sure to ask before throwing it away? I don't mind if you ask if you want to eat, but just don't throw it out unless you ask. I just cooked all that rice this morning so I could have it once I'm back from class, and now it's all in the trash. And she said, OMG, like, no, I thought it was the rice you made me 2 days ago when I asked if you could leave me some. I swear I'm on my way up though. But yeah, no, I'm sorry. I thought that it was old and you were leaving it. But again, I'm not trying to like make this a big issue, because obviously it's the second week and it was some rice, but I was just trying to tell her like how to communicate as a roommate, because she was also only child. She never really had to worry about living with someone else besides her mother. So I was just trying to like set boundaries. So like, for instance, I was trying to tell her like, hey, smoke outside so we don't get in trouble. Or hey, if you're going to touch my food, can you please ask me first? So there really wasn't any big issues. It was just trying to get that communication happening early on in us living together. But everything changed from there on out. Guys, oh my goodness. I know this is like 20 minutes long already, but this is why I have to split it up, because this is such a long story. So anyways, now we are moving into September 25th. Still, guys, the first month of living, literally just 3 weeks into living with each other. Everything changed from there, and you will see us living together did not last long. God, this story, as you can see, it hypes me up, because literally I'm just so, it makes me so frustrated, all the things I had to deal with. Anyways, so now we're literally into 3 weeks living with each other. She's making friends. She actually started dating someone and had this boyfriend now. And like all this stuff. So, she was getting comfortable, and I didn't mind that. You should be having fun. You should be enjoying yourself while in college. But the thing is that I was starting to get like bad energy from her, because basically, okay, so how our apartment worked was, if you have friends over, you have to bring them to the front desk, and that's like basically where our security is. You have to check them in, and the security will hold your ID and your company's ID while they are like over your place. And anytime you have company, they have to be with you at all times throughout the whole apartment complex, and you will not get your ID back until they leave. But we also only had a cap of 4 people per person. So if she wanted to have 5 or more friends over, I then would have to come downstairs, check in her friends, which now technically was under my company, just so that they could come over. But I didn't like mind it, because yeah, that's like friends. She could have friends, but it was just like a constant thing. It was just a constant thing happening, and you could see where it started causing trouble. So anyways, let's fast forward to September 25th. So at this time, again, only the 3rd week of living with her, I decided that I was going to go to Atlanta from September 21st to the 25th to visit my boyfriend because I didn't have work, I didn't have classes, and I wanted to spend time with him. This was a time that we were long distance, so he was living in Atlanta and obviously, I was still living in Chicago before I ended up moving out to Atlanta the next year, but we are long distance, and so I went to go visit him during those few days, and it actually just ended up working out because my roommate's birthday was on the 24th. So, during that time, she ended up telling me, like, hey, like, I'm gonna have some friends over for my birthday, and I told her, like, that's totally fine. I'm actually gonna be gone this weekend. So, I honestly really didn't want to be there during the weekend of her birthday, so it just ended up being perfect timing that I was able to go see my boyfriend and she could have the apartment to herself during her birthday, which was a total mistake. So basically, when I was at the airport on my way to Atlanta, she ended up texting me and was like, hey, can I borrow some hangers from your room? And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. Just make sure to close the door after once you're out of my room. Because we obviously had like a key to our front door, but since we lived together, we didn't have like keys to our actual room. So the only way for her to stay out my room was if my door was closed. So whenever I wasn't there, I would have the door closed as like an indication like I'm not there, don't go in my stuff, not thinking she would be in my stuff. Anyways, so I was totally fine. She ended up taking a few, hangers, and I told her to close my door. She was like, okay, thanks, I got it, blah, blah, blah. So she had her fun for her birthday. I had my fun in Atlanta, and I ended up coming back on the 25th, which was the Sunday after her birthday, and I ended up flying back home to Chicago early in the morning because I had work to do basically before Monday class. So I ended up arriving back at my apartment at around 8 a.m. And this is literally when things got so crazy. Like, guys, you're in for a crazy one right now. Anyways, so I end up, going up to the 23rd floor. Let me walk you through everything. I say hi to the security guards. I put my key fob to let me in. I wait for the elevator. I go up the elevator, walk down the hall, and I'm now entering my apartment. I enter my apartment. I'm on the phone with my boyfriend just because I'm letting him know that I'm safe, and we're just talking as I get into my apartment. And the first thing I see when I walk into my apartment, you have like a little entryway, and then it leads you right into the open living room, and I see this random girl looking messy as hell just knocked out on the couch. And I'm just like, who is this girl? Like, I'm thinking like, oh, it must be my roommate's friend that she said she was having over for her birthday. But mind you, she looked messy like they just had a wild night out. Anyways, so I'm just letting her be. She's knocked out. And as I walk closer to my bedroom, I notice that my bedroom door is open. And I'm like, why is my bedroom door open? Thinking like, okay, maybe she just forgot to close it after getting the hangers. So I got closer, and when I took my first step into my bedroom, there was clothes all over my floor. A full-on luggage, clothes just spread out in my bedroom. And I'm like, who gave access to my bedroom? Clearly, it had to be that girl on the couch because I didn't see anyone else in the apartment. So, like, why is her stuff in my bedroom when I don't know this girl? So, I then continue into my bedroom. And, at this time, I'm talking about my boyfriend. He's like, what's happening? And I'm just kind of observing a little bit. I look at the clothes, trying to figure out who it is. And I walk around, and I'm then walking to my bedroom, and guys, there was literally a panty liner stuck on my bed. How disgusting. Literally a panty liner. Who puts a panty liner on someone else's bed? Or even on a bed in general? Like, that is so disgusting. So I ended up putting down my bag. I didn't even observe anymore. And I went straight to the couch, woke up this random girl, and was like, who are you? And obviously, like, she's a little bit startled because I'm just waking her up, and she's like, who is this person? Like, didn't even realize I came into the apartment. I'm like, is that your stuff in my bedroom? Like, who gave you access to my room? Did you sleep in my bed? Why the heck is there a panty liner on there? Like, I'm just like asking her all these questions, and clearly I'm mad now, and she's obviously like a little frightened and nervous because I'm asking her and coming at her, and she's like, oh, sorry, like, I'm blah blah blah's friend, like, she told me that, you know, that it's okay to use your bedroom to change. I swear I didn't sleep in your bed. I just have my clothes in there, like, I'm sorry, I could go get it out right now, blah blah blah. So overall, I was just like, okay, I'm now heated, and you know, I try to calm down because I don't want to be mean to this person. I know, like, it wasn't her fault, but again, it's just like, you should know better not to go into someone else's bedroom. She clearly knew that wasn't her friend's room. So anyways, I try to calm down, and you know, I politely knocked on my roommate's door, and she wasn't answering. So then I tried to like open up the door, and clearly it was locked. And so I was just like, who are you? Like, why isn't like my roommate opening up her door? Is someone else there? And she's like, oh yeah, like her boyfriend's here, like that, like they're sleeping in the room together. Like she must just be really knocked out from like last night. It was her birthday, all this, just trying to figure out what to do because clearly she knows that I'm mad. So anyways, I'm just like, well, wake her up because we need to get this situation solved. And like, she even tried calling her, I tried calling her, I texted her, but my roommate was not answering her door. And so I'm like now pounding on her door, like trying to get her to wake up, and no one was answering. And I'm like, are you really that knocked out, or like, do you just know that you did wrong, you know? So I ended up going downstairs to the security at the front desk because clearly the security had their IDs. So I wanted to know who exactly was in my apartment. And as they were getting all that information, I was on the phone with my boyfriend telling him, and the security was like, wait, what? Like, all of this is happening right now? Like, I knew something bad was gonna happen the way they were looking sloppy as heck last night. And like, it did make the situation a little funny, so I started laughing, but she could tell that I was furious. Like, I was so mad. And so she basically, like, I ended up telling her everything that was happening at that moment. And she's like, I'll have the property manager come up right now. So I end up going back upstairs. I am still pounding on her bedroom door. She's not answering. And so at that time, I was like, okay, let me just wait for my property manager to come. And I then go and observe everything else in my room. So on top of the panty liner on my bed, the clothes all over my room, I also realized that my shoes were either touched or worn because they were all misplaced. And if you know, I have a lot of shoes and I put them in a way specifically that I know where I'm like grabbing them, and they were all mixed up. So clearly someone was touching my shoes. A jacket of mine was missing. Fresh towels were missing. And another thing, my rug for the bathroom had vomit all over it. It smelled so bad, guys. And the craziest thing is my roommate, she tried to clean the rug and then hid it into our front closet so I wouldn't find it, but clearly I did, and that smelled like pure vomit. It was so nasty. Like, this is just me observing in the few minutes I was waiting for my property manager. My property manager came, she tried opening up the door, pounding on her door, nothing. Like, my roommate would not open up. So my apartment complex's solution was, oh, let me go and just, you know, switch out your doorknob and give you a key to your room. And I'm like, why did you not give it to us beforehand? Like, if I had a key and could lock up my own room, we wouldn't have any of these issues. So now they had the maintenance guy come in. I knew the maintenance guy again from the year before, and he's now switching out my doorknob. He's like, I heard the story, like, that's so crazy. And while he's switching up my, you know, doorknob, my roommate finally wakes up. She finally wakes up, comes out of her bedroom to go bathroom. And like, so how it works is like, her bedroom is right here, my bedroom is right here, and like our doors basically were right next to each other, and then across was our bathroom. So she came out of her bedroom to go to the bathroom, and she clearly sees the maintenance guy like right in front of her door because he's fixing my door and switching out my doorknob. And she's like, what's happening? Like, why are you switching out your doorknob? And like, guys, I just started going off on her. And like, the maintenance guy is just laughing, shaking his head because she knows she is totally wrong for everything she did. And she denies it all. Like, full on denying everything. And I'm like, Everything is right here. Everything is right in front of me. How are you denying all of this? So things from there continued to just get worse and worse. And when I tell you guys, we did not last long as roommates. I will continue to tell you everything that happened after, you know, her coming out of her room and the next few months living with each other. But just for a little, you know, info, it did involve some knives. It involved police. It involved, you know, threats. It involved moving out, a whole bunch of BS basically within from like the end of September all the way leading up till like Christmas time. It was a lot to handle. It was not fun. It was not fun for me, and she was crazy. But I will definitely let you know everything in part 2, all the other craziness that I dealt with. But guys, like, I tried not to, like, have an issue with her from the start. I was trying to, like, be civil with her, let her know, like, hey, don't do this or communicate with me and all this. But literally 3 weeks into living with you and you let someone else stay in my bedroom, put a panty liner on my bed, like, y'all, not even a clean panty liner. It was a used panty liner. I made that girl come in and take it off, clean my sheets, everything. Like, who even sticks a panty liner on a bed? That's so disgusting. Y'all. Anyways, she did a whole lot and it continued. There was major stuff that ended up going on, but just like, imagine coming home from like a great trip with your boyfriend and then like, you see someone fully in your room. And the thing is that we lived in an apartment together, but we paid separate, like bills. So she paid her rent for her room and I paid rent for my room. So we had a lot of money that we were spending for our apartment. And the fact that this was not your room, the fact that you were not paying my bills, why would you give access to someone else to stay in my room while I'm gone? And like the fact that I had to come home and see all of that happening. Like if she were to communicate, that was different. But the fact that she didn't communicate, I already had a few issues with her happening at the beginning of the year, dealing with like smoking, dealing with, you know, my food, and then just happening like giving access to my bedroom to someone else. But that wasn't even like the worst part of it all, guys. When I tell you, literally, like knives, police, getting kicked out, like all of this stuff. What else has happened? Like literally, like toilet paper issues, pots and pans issues. Like the smallest things ended up leading to like threats from her. And I'm just like, dude, can I just like live in peace? Like clearly you're a spoiled girl that has never lived with someone, but there are boundaries when living with someone, and you can't just think like this is all your stuff. You can't think you could take someone's things without asking them or like keeping them and trying to deny it. When I tell you everything that she denied having, I ended up finding either in her room or like stashed away somewhere else that honestly was not there beforehand. Like it was clearly in its place before I left this trip. And then when I came home, it was either moved in a different spot or in her bedroom. Like, how are you gonna deny that you have my stuff? Anyways, I know it's crazy, but you will know everything else from in part 2, so stay tuned for that next week. But make sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave your assumptions down below in the comments what you think happened after like I confronted her. Let me know what crazy stories you think has happened while living with her, and I'll definitely tell you all the tea in next video. But make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.